Very good afternoon to everyone present. First, welcomes you today to another knowledge-filled session with leading professionals from the industry. The theme for today's webinar is Soy Protein, the Protein Guru. My name is Vidhi and I will be the moderator for today's event. For a brief introduction about our company before we begin, First is a market research and consultancy firm operating in India for over a decade. Apart from producing market intelligence reports, we also provide confidential consultancy support for joint venture operations, mergers, and acquisitions. Our innovation outreach platforms help to accelerate the product development for food and beverage and food ingredient companies through academic outreach and open innovation programs. GTEx or Tabletop Exhibits is one of our service platforms that involves organizing technical seminars for potential customers. We have organized more than 50 such technical GTEx events in India. That was a little intro about First. Now let's begin the webinar. This session will have two speakers. The first speaker for the session will be Mr. Badrinath Raghavendran, who is the co-founder and director of First Business Analytics. Over the course of his 30 years long career, Badri sir has undertaken extensive international market research for the soft drinks, juices, bottled water, and dairy industries, working with a range of different companies. Badri sir will be talking about the soy protein market trends in India. The second speaker sharing his knowledge with us today will be Dr. Anil Bajpai, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Prestige Group, an alumnus of some of India's best institutions like St. Stephen's Delhi, IISc Bangalore, and IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Anil's corporate career spanned nearly 31 years before his foray into academia after Dr. Anil earned his doctoral degree in total quality management. We are honored to have this incredibly knowledgeable and experienced panel with us today to be a part of this session. Just a quick reminder, all the participants will be muted throughout the webinar to prevent any background noise. During the presentations, you can post your questions in the chat window and we will try to address all of them during the Q&A session after the presentations. However, a recorded version of this webinar along with the Q&A responses will be sent to you via email in a few days. That's all from my side. Now over to you, Badri sir.
Thank you, Ms. Vidhi. Regarding the soy protein market in India and very few details on the global overview market, I'll spend a little bit of time. Protein has been a pretty hot subject for the last few years in terms of the ingredients, at least. Protein products have been around for a while, but recently with the IPO of companies like the burger companies, as well as the Impossible Foods, and a lot of the protein companies in the global arena, protein has taken a very center stage for the key ingredient. Looking at the market value for global protein ingredients, currently we estimate it around 40 billion euros. I'm sorry, in 2025 it will be 40 billion euros, and currently it could be between 32 billion euros and growing very healthy in the double digits. And in terms of the registration for proteins, the European Commission has legislated that at least 20% of the energy value of the food product that is consumed should have a protein content to claim as a high protein. And this is the whole definition of the high protein ingredient. And in terms of the legal definition, the vegetarian and vegan food has been differentiated, and it is still in the process of establishing a legal definition for vegetarian and vegan foods where the protein consumption is very high. The key usage of these ingredients, essentially it has been in sweet and savory biscuits, which has been shown 100% launch between 2013 and 18. And in 2020, vegan and vegetarian claims have shot up by 20% in 2020 alone. So in short, the global trends have been very, very positive for proteins as well as the protein ingredients. Moving on, we'll look at what are all the protein ingredient trends specifically? The key drivers for protein use. Of course, the health and wellness has been around for a while, and it has accelerated further because of the recent challenges in COVID also. And it has been on the forefront for wellness and high awareness also in consumption. And the protein market, there has been differentiated protein sources. Let it be the soy protein or the dairy protein, algal protein, even insect proteins. A lot of the protein sources have been prominent, and many investments in terms of capacities also have come up in the differentiated proteins. Very recently, there was interesting investment for insect protein from a Thailand company, and they have invested in insect protein based parts. That has been prominently taking up the market space as well. So, and in terms of consumer research, there have been more and more acceptance of proteins, which also means that some of the proteins might have a strong aftertaste, and that has also been accepted in the market. Proteins like the soy protein or algal protein, or even the recent insect proteins, that has some kind of aftertaste, and that has been accepted because of the nutritional value or the health issues. So that has been a very positive factor. And looking forward, what could be the trend for proteins? Increasingly, it is being used in very high quality foods. Let it be the beverage mixes type of foods, or it could be infant formula, any of those high quality foods. It has taken up the high quality proteins as well. And regarding the food trends, of course, vegan has been a very strong trend in terms of looking at companies like Impossible Foods or any other meat replacement kind of foods. They have been a very strong trend in the West as well as in some countries in Japan as well as in Asia also. Natural, organic, vegan, flexitarianism. Those are the key food trends. And flexitarianism has been the driver for veganism as well. Those two are completely related to each other, and food trend has been very positive towards these things. And protein has been associated with all these food trends as well. So briefly, this is the overview of the global trend. Just looking at the next, moving on in terms of the trend for investments in proteins. Of all the investments, there are two. One major investment that has taken the center stage, that is the pea protein. Although soy protein has had a legacy of substantial investments, pea protein has been catching up, and in terms of the sheer growth, the percentage, they have been growing very healthily. And the pea protein reason for those investments, it includes, it is because it is non-allergenic, it has a very good nutritional profile, the functionality is very good in terms of usage in beverages and other application, and the versatility in applications also. This is one of the highlights of protein, the whole protein ingredients. Of course, the other proteins also have had a very good value as well as investment proposals as well. Moving on, looking at soy specifically, soy traditionally it has had a very good value chain, right from the seed to the flakes, the full flat flakes, as well as the oils, as well as the defattened flakes, and going further into the fractionalization of soy protein isolates, concentrates, and the texturized soy protein, which is very highly used in vegan as well as vegetarian meatless foods also. The soy value chain has been pretty deep, and in India specifically, the value chain has been gradually increasing, especially in foods where you have beverage mixes, where you have healthy mixes, Mana Mix, those kind of companies have taken advantage of that. they have been taking a very good growth rate pretty recently. But considering the value chain, India has to have a little bit more potential gaining food items, which could happen in the next probably 5, 6 years. And it is a continuous process where you have a constant application oriented innovations as well as a good value chain for any of the soy protein ingredients in the market. It is a continuous process. Hopefully, we will have a very good deep value chain for other soy protein products as well. Moving on, in terms of the current usage of protein ingredients, the key end use sectors. Infant nutrition has been a very, very dominant usage of protein. And companies like Nestle, Danone, they have taken advantage of the value chain in protein. And they have been a high value builder for any of the protein ingredients, not only in India, outside India as well. And very recently, meat analogs, they have been especially propagated in the QSR segment, the food service segments and restaurants, although it has been in a pretty low ebb right now, but they have started appearing in all these food service segments. And most of them, including, let's say right now, even Domino's, they have introduced plant-based pizza, and those are meat analogs, and they have been competing with the meat segment directly as of now. And there have been some differentiation in terms of protein ingredients also. The next important segment is clinical nutrition, where the usage has been growing in very good value, especially where you have to take care of patients with a kind of illness like a cancer, or it could be an accident, or it could be the post-COVID scenarios. Clinical nutrition has taken up much of the space for protein ingredients as well, and especially the larger chains like the Apollo, the Max hospitals, the Fortis hospitals, all that, they have been in the forefront of clinical nutritionists, where they have been using these protein ingredients purely to recuperate the patients. And that has been one of the key segments for growth as well. And of course, high protein beverages, which includes the soy milk and the beverage mixes and a lot of the nutritional mixes. That has also been a very good segment for protein ingredients. And besides that, the traditional segments like animal feed, poultry, especially, they have been using protein in different sources, not just from the soy and dairy. They have been using protein from even guar gum, and different segments like dairy and functional foods. Traditionally, they have been using protein ingredients, and all of them have contributed towards growth and further usage of protein ingredients in India. Moving on, one of the key segments for growth in India is the soy milk market. And interestingly, soy milk is not a very new entrant category. It has been a very traditional category. It's been around for at least 20, 25 years in the organized segment as well. And it was in the growing and very, very low digits in terms of probably 7, 8% for a very long time, since 2011 to about 2015, 16. But after 2015, around that period, it has completely taken a different turn, as you can see from the graph, that the growth has been catching up with the health and wellness trend that has been going globally, and it is reflected in India as well. So a lot of the brands like the Hershey's brand, the Godrej Soy Fit, as well as the imported brands like Silk and other brands like Stater, they have been taking advantage of the growth. And despite the COVID situation in the last 2 years, the growth has been around 20%. Now, this is a tremendous growth given The most of the traditional outlets have been closed, and a lot of the challenges in supply chain and all that. The soy market, soy milk market, has been growing very healthy, and it is one of the key segments where the whole growth in terms of variants in soy, the number of SKUs in soy, that has also increased. It could be a chocolate flavor soy milk or vanilla flavor. Much of them, they have been pretty much prominent in the last few years as well. So this is one of the bright spots for soy. Of course, besides other segments that we have covered extensively in our report in the soy market, this is to show you an example how soy milk has been performing in the last 15, 20 years, and especially in the last 3 years. Moving on, just to give you another dimension of the soy market in India, as well as the protein market in India, there have been a slew of product launches, and a lot of them focused around the protein. And we have just taken out some examples very recently that Baggeries has introduced a protein muesli, very rightly said, high protein, and other nutrition supplements segment where they have used soy protein isolate, and some of them where they have used completely a meatless food using pea protein and SPI. And similar, Himalaya, they have also introduced a soy protein isolate. All these launches has been within the last 1 or 2 years, and this shows that protein is getting a center stage as of today, and it is poised to grow much, much higher. So with this, I would like to hand over to Dr. Anil Saab. He will carry on with the technical details of the soy and the soy value chain as well. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Badri.
Dr. Anil
Thank
Bajpai.
you. Thank you, Badri, for that wonderful description of what's happening in the space of soy protein, amongst other proteins that you talked about. So let me, like he said, wish everybody a very good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Uh, we are battling with something which is absolutely unseen. We are battling with something which is taking away human lives. We are battling with the pandemic for the last 18 months, and we don't know how long this is going to take. We don't know what's going to happen. But this 18 months has taught us a few things. One of them is you have to build your immunity. Your body immunity is your biggest defense after the vaccination, of course, against any kind of infection, against any kind of virus attack. And therefore, the fashion to passion has actually been realized. It was fashionable to consume soya milk a few months or a few years ago. Today, it is no longer fashionable. It is a requirement. It is now becoming a passion. So let me start with saying that soya is a low-cost source of protein that has been consumed in Asian countries for centuries. Japan, China, Indonesia, South Korea, even India to an extent, not so much, but the Eastern countries have for centuries consumed the soya protein or the soya bean in some fashion or the other. And that possibly has been the reason why they have lesser heart attacks, lesser strokes, and lesser cancer patients in the Eastern populations. Now you can look the way that the various formats in which soya can be consumed, and per serving, what is the content of protein and the content of isoflavone, which is the main important ingredient in the soya protein, and the total energy per serving. This table tells you that starting with something even as mundane as a soya burger, or the butter made from soya, or the tofu, which is the Indian, which is the soya equivalent of the cottage cheese, or the protein bar. All these you can see has got such a high content of soya protein per serving that you consume, and even the energy is good enough to take you along. And this is something I can talk from personal experience. I am a diabetic. I was discovered to be a diabetic 15 years ago, and 15 years ago, or rather in the last 15 years, there has been a lot of research and a lot of learning. But at that time, what came to my rescue? I used to feel hungry all day long. And why? Because everybody said, eat half of what you're eating today. So I started to eat half of what I was eating normally. And believe me, the gnawing in the belly when you feel hungry was terrible. I didn't know how to combat that till somebody introduced me to the soya nugget and said, you have to consume protein in whichever form, and soya is the best form. You can consume as much as you like, and you can keep yourself satisfied with the food requirement and not increase your glycemic index. At the same time, continue to have your kilocalories in shape. With the next slide, please, Kanchan. This has been given already by Badri, but I will still repeat this. The soy protein ingredients market was valued at 8,000 million in 2020 and is projected to grow at 2.61%. This is across the world. And the 5-year period will see this growth, if not more. Because more and more people are going to get into this habit of consuming more protein than otherwise. This, like I said, the pandemic, this 18 months has actually heightened awareness around the impact of meat on the environment. And while it has been a boon for consumption of soya in its direct form in various multiple ways, it has been some sort of a hit on the poultry and cattle industry. The poultry industry, which is a large consumer of soya meal, and soya meal is one of the end products of the entire process of soya extraction, continued to be a very large area of interest both in India and abroad from the soya industry. So that was a setback for a little while. It'll come back, I am sure. The key drivers of growth will be, as I'm repeating this for you, vegan diets, functional efficiency, cost competitiveness, increasing utilization of a wide variety of processed foods, and high sustainability. At this point, I would like to interject a little bit and say a couple of things of what's happening currently in the marketplace. We in India consume a lot of edible oils, and the company that I work with, the Prestige Group, the Prestige Foods, has been in existence for 43 years in this business. In fact, the founder chairman, Dr. Nemnath Jain, has been called the soya man of the millennium. And he and his son, Dr. Davis Jain, the current chairman of SOPA, the Soybean Extractors Association, they have had between them more than 3 terms of chairmanship of the association. So right now, as we speak, we are facing one of the country's most interesting phenomena in terms of the government, and it's a tripartite struggle where there is the importer of edible oils or beans from various parts of the world into the country to make up the deficit that India faces in terms of the overall production of soybean or any other oil seed. And therefore, to make it available to the consumer, we do a lot of imports. Now, what happens, and this is something which is very important to understand, that every year around, there is a period where there is a shortage, and there is a time period where the government lowers the interest, the import tariff, for allowing low cost availability to the consumer of oils such as palm and others, which can be mixed with soy and mustard and the other oils, to make it available to the common man at a lower cost. Not the healthiest of things to do, because it hurts the Indian industry, it hurts the overall development, the overall production. The farmer is induced to move away from soya farming, and that's not a good sign. Can you go to the next one, please? The organic soya protein. Now, like I was talking about, fashion to passion. Now, this is one of those areas which starts off as a fashion when people say organic soya protein market. The growth of organic is the rising demand for organic products, government support for organic farming, growing vegan population, high nutrition value of soy. All these things need not necessarily be found only in the organic soy protein. It can be found in the regular soy protein also, but organic, well, definitely is a far superior product in the sense that there is no chemical that is used anywhere in its growth, neither in the field nor in the process, and therefore obviously you are keeping yourself free from a lot of side effects of those chemicals. On the basis of application, the market is segmented into functional food, infant formula, bakery, meat alternatives, and dairy alternatives. Again, this is a repetition of what Badri already told you. So I'll quickly go to the next slide. Now here is very interestingly what Badri was telling us, that there is this increasing application, people wanting to move away from meats, from non-vegetarian food, but still wanting to retain that taste, retain that look, retain that texture, retain that fabric, so to say. So see, the consumers are moving towards plant-based proteins. We all know that. The isolates and concentrates are used for other applications in meat extenders, such as emulsifying them, emulsion stabilization, gelatin. Gelatin, incidentally, has got many applications, including the medical world, and fat and water binding. Emulsified meat formulations contain soy ingredients. They have a better visual appeal, good texture, and no aftertaste. The extender approved is textured or granulated soy protein concentrate, which can be added at about 20%, 5% on a dry basis in wet form, in liquid form, and it can be added to and give not just an appeal, a better taste and a healthier composition to the meat that we consume. The next one, please. So what we're trying to do is that today, while India is facing a shortage and a tripartite struggle between the government, which is not decided whether to reduce the import duties of the various beans that come into the country, or the various end product oil that can be imported directly, and the soya producers wanting the prices to remain where they are, so that the farmer gets a better deal and go ahead and produce more soybean in his cultivation, to eventually become a rich farmer, and B, to make India a healthy country. So this is the nutritional benefits throughout lifespan. See, one of the few foods. See, as we grow older, from birth onwards, we tend to consume different kinds of food at every stage. Now, soya formulation and soya food is such a thing that it has its utility at every stage of our life, from the infancy, where we consume the milk and we consume vitamins and minerals fortified with soya formulas for baby foods. We then use soy milk, which is an alternative for anybody who is lactose intolerant. I mean, there have been people, we've been lactose intolerant for ages, but we started discovering that fact only in the last 20 to 30 years. And let me give you a little bit of a hint here. All the ladies over here and some of the young men, if you have acne, if you're suffering from acne or freckles, believe me, you are lactose intolerant. That's a high probability. So try giving up that milk and try soy milk, and you'll probably get rid of your acne. So these are the kind of things that lactose intolerance has given way to soy protein, soy milk. Soy protein, along with whey protein and casein, helps in building muscles. And the gymnasiums and everybody who's a fitness freak, or today even a fitness interested person, would find this application very well. And as we grow even older, the risk of cardiovascular disease increases, and consumption of soy protein in multiple forms or in any form tends to help us reduce that cardiovascular disease of stroke, of heart attack, and everything else. So this phenomena, this period of the last few quarters, which saw a huge rise in the price of internationally, the price of the soybean, and there was a lot of speculative hoarding. There was a lot of commodity exchange speculation that was going on, and then suddenly in the last few weeks we saw it crash. We saw it crash in light of uncertain weather conditions across the world. We saw it in the good weather forecast for the Indian farmer, and we can see that now Brazil, the US, China of course is within quotes, uh, and other countries are actually looking at this in a very conservative and a very should I say aggressive manner, along with the conservativeness. Conservative from the outlook, aggressive from their intent. And here on, what we do see is that uh, the European market, which is very uh, quality conscious, and so also some extent the Japanese market, believes in the non-GMO, which is the non-modified. So genetically modification is what is done to enhance the yields and to make the per acre grammage higher. And so what do? We modify the gene and bring it to that kind of a better yielding soybean. However, countries like India, and India prides itself in that, has not yet taken to modifying the genetic code of the soybean, and we continue with the non-GMO. And the non-GMO has got a premium in the marketplace at various countries like the European countries and Japan, and to some extent in South Korea, amongst some other discerning customers across the world. Can I have the next one, please, Kanjan? So, see, India, typically, all of us have been very, what should I say, not conscious of our health, and that primary reason is, and not because we are a poor country, because we do grow a lot of grain, we do grow a lot of crop, uh, but over the decades, over the centuries, India has had a very funny kind of vegetarianism. That vegetarianism has been such that we have consumed carbohydrates to satisfy our hunger, and kept the protein away from us. And in that sense, we have let obesity take charge of the bulk of the Indian growing population. Uh, Growing means the growing older population, not the young boys and girls who are very concerned about their fitness these days. Uh, but the the carbohydrate that is part of our meal has to be reduced, and it has to be replaced by protein. And that's something that requires not just a marketing effort. It requires a huge campaign, probably with the help of the government, to educate the masses, saying that we want to be healthy. We want a country with healthy human beings, and therefore we have to take away the carbohydrate content and replace it by protein. And because we are a vegetarian nation by and large, we have to also understand that the soy protein is very competitive with animal proteins. With almost 52 grams of protein per 100 grams of quantity, soya foods are comparable to any animal protein like chicken, eggs, and dairy products. I like that word when I read the word called eggs over here. I like that connotation that Badri had referred to by way of flexitarian. And yes, in our language, in the Hindi language, many of you may not understand, but there is a word called mocatarian, which is we are opportunistic sometimes when it comes to consuming food in vegetarian or non-vegetarian types. So we're not pure vegetarians, we're not pure non-vegetarians, we are somewhere in between, but bulk of us are pure vegetarian. And this is the way that we are going to actually bridge the protein gap. Soya protein. So like I use that phrase, it's going to be fashion to passion. We start with a fashionable thing to consume soya milk, but tomorrow it will become passion to consume that. Can I have the next one, please? So this is, in conclusion, I want to say that soy proteins are a good source of amino acids, and there are 9 kinds of amino acids that are required for the building block, the human cell, and all the enzymes that are produced in the body. The soya protein has actually got all the 9 essential. Actually, there are 46 types, and the 9 essential ones are those that soy protein provides. And of course, this is good for vegetarians and lactose intolerant population. This is witnessing a huge demand in animal feed, like I said, which took a little bit of a hit in the recent times, but it's going back, and it's going to, for cattle and for poultry, be a boon, because it is the lowest cost and the most nutritive food for the poultry and animal feed. The high nutrition content makes their consumption beneficial for people suffering from varieties of issues like diabetes, like me, and cardiac problems. Soy foods are said to be rich in phytoestrogens, touted to lower the risk of disease like osteoporosis. A lot of the ladies in their aging years will suffer from this more than the men, but consumption of soy protein will help them take care of that, and the hormone dependent cancer also can be fought. The early digestible nature of soy proteins make them suitable for consumption by all age groups. In the conclusion, I will put a warning, I will put a word of caution. There are a lot of stories by the naysayers who have forever decried the consumption of soy protein, saying that it contains the isoflavones, which are not good for men, which are not good for women. This will lead to a thyroid dysfunction and whatever else. However, there were some taste issues, there were some digestive issues in the beginning when soya was getting into becoming a food, and over the years the processes have so improved that today there is none of that activity, and there is no medical evidence to support any of those claims which people make. And believe me, soy is a complete safe, a complete high protein and a low cost diet for everybody across the world, especially in my country, India. Thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anil, and thank you so much to Badri sir as well for this very engaging session on the soy protein market in India. I hope this session was very informative and helpful for the participants. Before we move on to the Q&A session, I would like to briefly tell you about our recently launched study on protein ingredients in India market, where we present a 360-degree analysis in terms of supply and demand of different protein ingredients by raw material source and different formats such as texturized, concentrates, and isolates. Detailed chapters will be presented on current and potential demand sectors of protein ingredients in food, feed, and food service sectors. And we are presenting the analysis to know the market size, production capacity of domestic players, import trends, market share in each demand sectors of food such as bakery, functional food, supplements, and other emerging key sectors such as plant-based meat and dairy alternatives. We will include the key drivers accelerating these sectors in India market, and we'll also forecast the usage of protein ingredients by source and formats in each demand sector for the next 5 years. That is for the year 2026. Do let us know if this report can be of interest to you. We would be glad to share and explain the sample pages. Now I won't take much of your time. Let's proceed to the Q&A session. We have received a few questions during the presentation, and we will try to address some of them, but please rest assured that all your queries will be answered and the responses will be sent to you via email after the webinar. So I will start with the questions now. So Dr. Anil, the first question is, which form of soy protein is the most prevalent in the Indian market and why?
Nice question, and you must pardon me for the absence of illumination in where I am sitting. We just lost power. Fortunately, I'm able to communicate, but you'll have to pardon my absence in the physical form from the camera. Well, the most prevalent form of protein that is being consumed in India is in the form of the soya flour, which is mixed with the wheat flour that we use. Soy milk is growing. We have, of course, the oil which a lot of us consume in the form of oil from the oil seed, and uh, the nuggets, those chunks of soya which we can eat after a frying activity. So this is what human consumption is, and of course, poultry consumes the meal, which is the final product, the most extracted final output from the soya process. Now, these are the ones that are consumed by people and animals in the country, and they are currently mostly consumed for their functional use. Uh, Three forms of soya protein products exist as protein supplements or source of proteins, and their content ranges from 50% to over 90%. And these are flours, which is 50 to 90, 50%, and some isolates are as high as 90%. However, like I said a little while back, the Indian market consumes them in these functional forms so far. We have to grow into more nutritional and other kind of application of soy as time will tell us.
Thank you for that answer, Dr. Anil. Indeed, soy products like rapidly growing in the Indian market and for the right reasons, as you just mentioned in your presentation. The next question is, why is the demand for soy protein isolate increasing in soy product manufacturers?
Another extremely interesting question, and it's simple like this: that soya protein isolates are usually prepared using isoelectric precipitation. A lot of you will understand that who are from the industry. Precipitation of an alkaline extract of defatted and dehulled soybeans. That means you remove the oil and you remove the skin, and then what's left, and that is the isolate. And then approximately 90% protein, mostly beta coglycinin and glycinin. These are the elements that are left afterwards, and that is why the SPI has got very high concentration of protein. And the benefits that the SPI gives, the soya protein isolate gives, is in lowering cholesterol of people who consume, uh, providing you high protein for every gram of consumption, uh, improving your cardiovascular health, and of course, even gastrointestinal health. And believe me, it has a lot of vitamins and minerals also. So that is why SPI is finding favor all across.
Thank you for that wonderful and informed answer, Dr. Anil. It is important and interesting to know the technical aspects behind, each soy product. The next question is, how is soy better than other plant-based proteins or dairy-based proteins?
See, I told you earlier also, but I will repeat this because this is the most important decision-making point for many people when they want to shift from one kind of protein to another kind of protein. Uh, Soya is the only vegetable food which has all 9 essential amino acids, and those 9 amino acids go into building blocks of the human cellular consumption and growth. So we when we build our our immunity requires amino acids, and amino acids are, these are the ones that will go help build immunity like no other protein. So this is extremely useful in building immunity, and that is why this is better than the other. There are other plant proteins also, and those plant proteins, some of them contain a few essential amino acids, but not all the 9 that I'm talking of, and that is why soya is the best.
Thank you for your response, sir. It is interesting to know the health benefits of soy, especially now that people are so conscious of the products they consume. The next question is soy protein a good ingredient for nutraceutical production?
This is an area of research, and the research is going on as we speak, even now. This has received the status of one of the most important edible plants, soybean, known for its seeds as the source of protein. The seeds are the source of protein, and not the leaf or the fruit or anything else. And the the one thing that the seed always gives out is oil. So oil is consumed in any case. And we have what is called nutraceuticals. Now nutraceuticals are those which are actually a natural nutritional and pharmaceutical products that can be found in the marketplace. The fermented soybean meal is a good source of nutritionally rich tofu. So it's not yet a nutraceutical. It is still a cheese, a cottage cheese supplement. Then there is properties of isoflavones and folic acid add value to the formulations. Now eventually patents are getting filed nowadays for innovations in products and processes which have gained popularity. And there are three fundamental kinds of core materials of the nutraceuticals family that are found in the soy protein, in the soy protein isolates. And the three are, or rather two only, not three, the riboflavin and the curcumin. And riboflavin comes in the form of tablets and hydrogel, whereas curcumin comes only in tablet form. And what are the things that they do? They are used in medicines, they are used in the pharma industry, they are used in some supplementing uh, protein for recuperating patients, and also for healthy people.
Thank you. That was very informational. Thank you, Dr. Anil. We will wrap up the session now with the last question, which is which other protein alternatives are likely to lead the Indian market next?
I will not say they will come to replace one or the other, because the Indian market is a very diverse market. We are
True.
30 countries rolled into one country. So we are, that is why called a subcontinent at many times. And because of that, our staple food, our diets, our favorable food content is completely different from region to region. And we will have three fundamental, should I say, protein sources, and that's going to be wheat and pea, that Badri spoke of right in the beginning, with that little pea shape with the seed coming out. So pea, wheat, and soy. These are going to be the three plant-based proteins that will be in the marketplace, that will grow in the marketplace, that will find favor with India. And of course, uh, the the non-vegetarian population of the country will continue to derive their protein intake from chicken and mutton and whatever else they consume. But gradually they are shifting their uh, their preferences to soya, especially after all the rumors stroke facts that they have learned over the last 18 months of the coronavirus pandemic. uh, I think we will see a lot of growth in this field in the next few years. And I hope, and very, very fervently hope, that the powers that be, the government, and all the associations across the country uh, will join hands to making India self-sufficient in at least protein and the edible oil category of food, so that we have a healthier nation. And yesterday being the International Yoga Day, I would like to remind everybody that the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, is actually very, very interested in a healthy nation, both by way of exercise and by way of proper food consumption. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that insight. And yes, we are hoping for a healthier nation, and for that, of course, these protein segments will grow, like you mentioned. All right, so with that, we can wrap up this Q&A session. Thank you so much, Dr. Anil and Badri sir as well, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. And thank you everyone for joining us for this session today. We really appreciate your active participation and hope to see you again in our future events and webinars. I request you all to please answer the exit survey before you log off. This will really help us in organizing future webinars of relevance and of your interest. Thank you once again, Dr. Anil and Badri sir, Have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anil sir.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.